Hello, everyone, and welcome back to DWG TV. Today, I am joined by Laura Bosco, who is a copywriter and self-proclaimed people person. That is what her website says. So today, I'm just interviewing her about copywriting and how to keep your customers engaged with compelling copy. And I think this is going to be a great chat today. Laura, do you want to take a second and introduce yourself and just let everyone know what you do, both professionally, and then just some personal fun facts if you want to sprinkle that in as well?
Sure. So we are doing this remotely today because I am in Chattanooga, Tennessee, but I work with people all over the US and a little bit internationally too. So I'm an independent copywriter, and I primarily help small businesses and entrepreneurs explain what they do. Customers won't buy what they don't understand. So my job is to work with a variety of small businesses and entrepreneurs to make sure it's very clear what they're selling, why they're selling it, and who they're selling it to. Let's see, fun fact about me. I do a lot of running. I am a huge bird watcher, which works well with working from home. Yeah.
That is a fun fact.
Kind of shocking for a millennial. I don't think many millennials are bird watchers. And I bake sourdough bread every week. I think that's one of the things my husband and I enjoy the most. It makes 2 loaves, so we give 1 loaf to a different neighbor or person that we want to meet, and then we eat a whole loaf of bread between the 2 of us.
That's so awesome. I was actually creeping on your Instagram this morning, just trying to get some more background on you, and it seems like it's so beautiful where you live. So I can imagine that the bird watching is incredible.
It is. We really lucked out with a big porch that pretty much just extends our house by another room. And anytime the weather is, warmer than 40 degrees, I'm out there. It's incredible.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing a little bit about yourself. But today we'll just dive into the questions. So can you tell us why you write? And is that something that you've always been passionate about?
Yeah, so it's a weirdly personal question that I don't mind answering. But when I was a little kid, I had all of these thoughts and emotions trapped inside of me, probably like most little kids do. Mm-hmm. And the only way I could ever figure how to get them out effectively was to write about them. Mm-hmm. So I started writing short stories. I started writing poetry. I started writing anything and everything that I could in my journal. And that's what made me fall in love with it. It was a way to get all of this going on inside of me out into the world, or at least out of my head.
Yeah.
And that's part of still why I write today, because I think everyone has something to say and something worth saying. But not everybody knows how to do that. And not everybody knows the right words or the vocabulary, the way to string sentences together. So I find a lot of joy helping people get whatever's in their head or whatever's in their business that really needs to be out into the world in a way that other people can go, oh, I get it. I get what you do now.
Mm-hmm. That's so awesome. Has writing always been what you've done professionally and what you pursued education-wise?
No, I joke that I have the typical millennial resume. So I studied biology, which I absolutely loved, but I didn't end up doing anything with it. I tried doing some research and I worked in a couple of labs, and it was really interesting, but I don't think it was people intensive enough for me.
Right.
I managed a restaurant. That's probably the weirdest thing that I did for a while. I did that for 2 years. Y'all actually have some of the restaurants there. It's Urban Cookhouse.
Okay, yeah. We just got that probably a year or so ago.
Yeah, I think you guys have 2 locations, one in Irmo and one over, I forget the part of the city, but more downtown.
I think it's on Divine Street.
Yeah, that part. So I managed, there's 3 restaurants in Birmingham, and so I managed a couple of those for a couple of years. And more recently, I was a digital project manager for an agency. So that agency did WordPress design and development. So I had the privilege of getting all these clients and designers and developers together in one room. And we spent a lot of time figuring out, where do we want to go? How do we want to solve this problem? So that was fun. And that dealt a whole lot with communication too.
So would you say that you just were kind of hungry for a more people-intensive career, and that's why you kind of chose to pivot towards copywriting?
I think it was more of a creative hunger than
Yeah.
anything else. So there were a lot of parts that I loved about project management. It was people intensive. So I got
Yeah.
to
Right.
interact with people. It was very strategic and outcome oriented. So there's always something that we were striving to achieve. And that's something that I bring into copywriting too. It's not just words for the sake of words. It's
Yeah.
beautiful words for the sake of achieving something.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the agency kept asking me to do a lot of writing, and I had a lot of people on the side kept asking me to do a lot of writing. And eventually I hit this point where I looked at my husband and I said, we have to choose, do I keep trying to juggle these things, or do I really dive into writing and see where that can take us? So that's what we decided to do. We decided to go all in on writing.
Super cool. Well, I'm glad that you found the path that works well for you. And it sounds like it perfectly aligns with your personality. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a crazy weird path to break down all of it, but
Definitely. So what would you say is the most challenging thing about your job?
so that's tricky. There are a couple of different things that are challenging, but I think the biggest challenge actually comes down to sitting down and doing the work.
Mhm.
So at some point I have to push aside fear of failure, the unknowns, all the questions, and I have to just do it. Someone once said that being a writer is the art of applying your butt to the chair. And they were talking about writing novels, but it's not that different with what
Yeah.
I do. I could think about it all day, I could research it all day, but at the end of the day, I have to get something on paper and start working with it from there.
Yeah. Yeah. That can definitely be a struggle. I mean, that's a great quote, honestly. Just sitting down and doing the work for sure. So what does your content creation process look like? I know you do varying types of copywriting from like newsletters to web copy. What does your process look like, and how does structuring those different kinds of content, like which one's your favorite, which one's not so much your favorite? Just share a little bit about that if you would.
Yeah, so when it comes to process, I would say there's almost two different processes. There's the one that I'm going to tell clients about because it's easier to understand.
Yeah.
And that's the research, ideation, draft, and revision process. So it's the process most creatives describe for anything that they do. So you research an idea, you come up with the idea, you draft it, you work on it, and then you have a final product.
Right.
And then there's the actual side of the creative process that people who do the work are more familiar with, where you start out with this great idea and then it kind of goes downhill a little bit and you think maybe this isn't a great idea, and then you think, oh, this idea is crap, then you go, oh, I'm crap, and then you slowly start coming back up the other side where you work on it and you're like, okay, this is okay, and then you get to a final product. So to an extent, everything I do has both sides of those. They
Yeah.
have that more structured research and drafting, but then
Mm-hmm.
they also have that more emotional roller coaster of
Mm-hmm.
how is this going to go? Well, probably like this. It does differ a little bit according to the format. So copywriting is a little bit, so for a homepage or a website, that's
Mm-hmm.
going to be a little bit more research intensive on the customer. What are they saying? What words are they using when they're writing reviews, when they're researching competitors? It's a lot about finding that voice of customer, as some copywriters call it.
Mm-hmm.
A newsletter and blog post are going to be a little bit heavier on the subject matter research, if that makes sense. So one's more customer research heavy and one's more
Yeah,
subject
that makes a lot of sense.
But overall, it tends to vary more by client than it
Mm-hmm.
does by format. So all of the formats are going to have the processes I described, but depending on what the client wants to achieve, what their budget is, what their timeline is, that's really where the specifics of the process will come out. So there's kind of a process template, and then I'll build it around the client.
Super cool. Yeah, that's super interesting. So you have a quote on your website that says, delight your customers with clear, high quality writing. I just wanted to kind of pick your brain and see, what does delighting your customers mean for you?
So if you're asking from the perspective of a business delighting their customers, and I'll answer it both ways, but if it's a business delighting their customers, I think it means speaking to their customers honestly, clearly, and with purpose.
Yeah.
So we have all of these ads and all of these messages that are bombarding us every day. I can't remember the stat, but it's stupid high how many ads we see a day. And a lot of those are kind of scammy, and a lot of those are dishonest. And
Mm-hmm.
no one likes feeling as if they've been had or had the wool pulled over their eyes.
Yeah.
So I am personally delighted whenever I'm interacting with a business and they speak to me like I'm a human and they tell me clearly and honestly, even if it's a lot of fun, here's what we offer and here's why it's for you. So in terms of a business, I think that's delighting their customers.
For sure.
When it comes to me delighting my customers, I think that's threefold. I think that's one, helping them get that idea out, the joy of them looking at something I've created and gone, that's what I was trying to say. And another part is working with me. I want that to be fun and delightful.
Yeah.
And if it's not going to be, then I don't want to work with you because that won't be fun for them either.
Yeah.
We're just not a good fit if that's the case. And a third part is seeing results. I always want customers to be able to trace some result, whether it's a sale, whether it's more engagement, more newsletter signups, whatever the goal is. I want them to see some kind of result.
Yeah. I love how you broke that out into how you're delighting your customers and how you're helping businesses delight their customers. That's super interesting. So what kinds of clients do you typically work with?
That's always a fun question. So right now I work with a really wide variety of industries. So there's no specific industry that I've niched down in to say, hey, I only do nutrition or I only do athletics. Right now it's a really big variety. But the common denominator is the businesses are typically small, usually 5 or less people on their core team. They may have other contractors, but the core team is usually 5 or less. And they're normally young companies. So they're normally startups that are 5 or so years young.
Awesome. I know that you mentioned that you've worked with nonprofits in the past and that you have an area on your website where you talk about, special pricing for nonprofits and special offers there. Can you kind of just expand on that a little bit and share why you're passionate about working with nonprofits?
Yeah. So I have so much respect for nonprofits because they, a lot of times, are making really big waves with really limited resources.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, due to budget restrictions, they don't have the opportunity to partner with the level of agency or creatives that a lot of these other mid to big size businesses with astronomical budgets can.
Right.
So I'm passionate about offering a nonprofit rate to make my services more accessible to nonprofits that could benefit from it.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to work with one last year in Chattanooga, and it was so much fun. And it was so encouraging for me. The team I was with, we joked that it was more of a gift to us than to them at the end of the day, because we walked away so encouraged by what they were doing and how hard they were working and what a difference they were making. So it was a gift for us to be able to impact their business in the way that we did.
Yeah, I love that you do that. Yeah, we've been kind of narrowing the industries that we're focusing on here at DuBose Web, and one of those verticals is nonprofits. So I just kind of wanted to get your perspective there. So we're really passionate about working with community-focused organizations. That's kind of the common thread between all of the industries that we're focusing on. So I love that.
That's so exciting. I didn't know that about you guys.
Yeah. So you're working with multiple clients, and their goals and challenges and what you're doing for them differ greatly, I'm assuming. So how do you kind of try to find the balance between working with such a variety?
Yeah. So I would say a lot of it comes down to knowing my limits, which I largely found out through my other jobs, through managing a restaurant, through working at an agency. Over the years, I've figured out what I can and can't handle. So I know that I have about 4 hours max of creative work in me per workday. And I can do some admin tasks on top of that. And so maybe 6 hours total is kind of my max, but I know that I can't really exceed that and deliver good work. So part of balancing the clients comes down to making sure that I don't overbook myself in terms of those hours. So I'm not going to commit to more clients, to more projects, to more work than can fit into those segments that I talked about. And then a lot of it is chunking my work too. So energy management is the way that I think about it. So I am freshest in the morning. So I always, the day before, I'll write down the 3 things I have to do the next day. And then the hardest and most thought-intensive one I'm going to do in the morning. After coffee, when I still think I can take on the world and everything is bright and shiny, that's when I do the hard things. So my weeks and days kind of end up playing out on that. So I'll draft earlier in the week and edit later in the week.
Okay. I personally love hearing how people structure their days and weeks and just how they manage their time. So, do you do like calendar blocking? Would you say that's what you do to manage your days?
Um, okay, so I'm trying to think of a good way to describe it. The overall structure is I have 3 things a day that I want to check off, and those are my 3 priorities.
Hmm.
I will tackle the hardest thing in the morning before I check email. That's one of my secrets. So I will sit down when I'm ready to work, and I will work for an hour to 2 hours, sometimes 3, before I hop into email. Because when I hop into email, my day gets a little bit sidetracked. Other
For sure.
priorities may come up, and I don't want to give my email more power than it should have. So I don't check
Mhm.
it until mid to late morning. I typically try and stop working by 5 or 6 so I can spend time with my husband in the afternoon. So a typical day would be 3 hours of focus work, email break, lunch break, 3 more hours of focus work in the afternoon, another break, and then the end of the day is typically admin tasks. What email do I need to answer? What thing do I need to schedule? What do I need to do tomorrow?
Yeah, that's a great tip. I know the first tab that I open up every morning is my email.
Is
I
it?
open up
Yeah.
my email and then I open up my calendar and then I open up our task management system we use. So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of love that. And even sometimes I'm guilty of checking my email before I get to work, just so I know if
Yeah.
there's anything that came in my inbox while I was home the night before. So I really like that strategy. And I think that's something that our viewers can take away too, is just getting into a habit of getting that hardest thing knocked out first thing before you kind of let other people's requests dictate your day and dictate how you're managing your time. So
Yeah,
great
I
tip.
heard someone phrase it as, why would you waste your best work on your best mental work on
Right.
skimming emails? That
Yeah,
that's you could get so much more impact out of those hours, those minutes when you are fresh doing something else.
for sure. That's a great tip. So can you just kind of go into explaining why content marketing matters, why it is that you do what you do, and why you're so passionate about helping businesses reach their customers through compelling and engaging copy?
Yeah, so I would say I don't think content marketing is necessarily for everyone. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of consistency. And
Mm-hmm.
if the company knows that they can't do that and they can't afford that, they may want to consider alternate routes. But for a company that is passionate about their customers and is passionate about communicating with their customers, it's a great avenue.
Yeah,
It can take a while to work, but when it does, it can be a recruiting funnel, it can be a sales lead funnel, and all of that just compounds over time, which I think is the coolest thing about content marketing. I mean,
sure.
it's an incredibly powerful tool that becomes even more incredibly powerful if you're doing it well.
Yeah.
And as far as messaging, it's honestly hard to know where to start with why I think that's important, because it's to me, it comes back to relationships. So having a relationship with your customer, you're going to have to communicate with them, and there's a million and one ways you do that. You do that visually through your brand, and then you do that technically through your website, and then there are so many places you use words: on Facebook, on LinkedIn, in your newsletters. And every time you're messaging a customer, every interaction point you have with them, that's an opportunity to build a better relationship with them.
Yep.
Just like when you sit down with a friend, every time you grab coffee, every time you shoot them a thinking about you text, that builds the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm passionate about good relationships, and I want businesses to have more of those with their customers. And yeah,
That's a
communication
great
is my
answer.
huge platform. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So I know you mentioned that when you were younger, you would journal, and that's kind of how you got your thoughts out onto paper.
Mhm.
So do you, since you're writing so much for your job, is writing still something that you do personally for yourself? Do you have kind of like a journaling practice, or are you still writing poetry for yourself? Anything that you kind of do to get your own personal creative energy out?
Yeah, not as much as I want to, and probably not as much as I should. So
Mhm.
that's probably something I should think about for 2019. I do a little bit of journaling, and I did that especially when I first started working for myself, because there was so much I was figuring out. My brain was so full that I just wanted to get it down,
Mhm.
especially so I could encourage other people later. If I know them and they're taking the same route, I can be like,
Right.
look, see, I was a little crazy this month too. It's fine. um, I mostly read fiction, honestly, as a creative outlet. So
Okay.
that'll inspire me to create, is reading what other people have created. And just like TV takes most people's mind off something, reading fiction takes my mind off something.
Gotcha. Yeah. I probably, it's a new year. A lot of people are trying to, up their reading game, journal more. Those are some of kind of like the popular resolutions. I'm personally trying to journal more myself. I have one of those like 5-year Q&A books where you like, it asks the same question every day for over 5 years.
Oh, no
and last
way.
year I was super inconsistent about doing it. So I have one for myself, and then me and my husband have one that we do together sometimes. So
Oh, that's cool.
it's like a little time capsule type thing. So we're trying to get better about that. So I was just curious what your creative outlet was. Also, I need to read more. I'm not good about reading fiction. I'm more of a nonfiction girl. Yeah.
People seem to be in one camp or the other. I personally can't do much nonfiction. I have a stack of it on my desk that'll help me with my work, but it's too thought intensive for me. I dive into those books and I'm like, well, what do I take away from this? And how do I do this? And
when reading is supposed to be more of an escape anyways.
I think it depends on the person too.
Yep, it does. Yep. Totally. So next I want to do some rapid fire questions just for fun. So just kind of, these are random, just for fun questions. So what is your favorite day of the week and why?
Weird, Monday. Because most people's least favorite day of the week. That is my favorite day of the week. My husband and I call it Motivation Monday because we get more done on Monday, I swear, than any other day of the week. Probably combined.
That is motivating to me. Yeah, like I guess if you have a good Monday, you're setting yourself up for success for the rest of the week. So it's a good way to look at it.
I have the most energy that day. So I'm like, yeah, bring it on. Let's do stuff.
That's awesome. Are you a coffee or a tea person?
Both. Coffee in the morning, tea in the afternoon.
Okay. What kind of tea do you drink?
Short answer is whatever's in the pantry. Longer answer is I try and avoid caffeine in the afternoon. So it's mostly herbal tea. So rooibos, or I have this really delicious, I don't know, it's like orange blackberry something that came in my stocking, and that's really good. Yeah.
Cool. What are you currently reading or listening to?
Like a super nerd, I am rereading Harry Potter right now. So I am on book 4. And I realize I don't have book 5, so I'll be going to the library sometime soon. But that's my fiction escape. And because Chattanooga is super cloudy and dreary in the winter, so I always pick up a fiction series. And this year I just decided it was going to be Harry Potter.
Fun fact, and this is probably going to make people cringe, but I've never read Harry Potter.
I don't judge you. If you don't like fiction, Harry Potter is just mega long fiction. So there's no reason for you to get into that.
All of the books are on my Goodreads list, and everyone is always so shocked when I tell them that. I've seen some of the movies, not in order by any stretch of the imagination. And I went to one midnight premiere and like dressed up. I don't know why. I went with my friend, so that's why. But I've always wanted to read it just to kind of see what the hype is about. I know I'm like years behind, but I might give it a try.
Well, all Harry Potter fans cringe when I tell them I've read every book except the last one, which is why I'm actually working my way through the series. They think that's
want it to end? Is that why?
No, because I read them as they were coming out, which I think I was looking at the publication dates the other day. I think that started when I was 9, which is crazy to me.
Wow.
But she took a couple years between the last ones, probably because it was just hard and there was so much to wrap up. So by the time the very last book came out, I had forgotten the rest of them and I didn't want to reread the rest of them. Yeah. So I don't think I've ever actually read the last one.
Gotcha. What is your favorite season and why?
Has to be summer in Chattanooga because the days are epically long. I can't tell you how much it crushes my soul for the sun to set at 5:30 right now.
It is so hard. Can't wait for March when the time changes.
I cannot wait for that. So I love being able to play outside until it's 9:30 at night. And Chattanooga has all of these rivers and hills. And so there are endless swimming holes, which is so much fun.
Super fun, yeah.
You can just pack a cooler, drive 20 minutes, and be in this cool but not cold, clear swimming hole, and it's incredible.
Awesome. And my last rapid fire question is, who inspires you?
It's got to be this group of women in my life. So there are, it's not, I mean, there are plenty of people that are doing incredible, inspirational things out there, but the people who really motivate me to keep going day after day are some of my best friends and mentors. And some of
Mhm.
them have worked in the White House. One of them's a pediatric nurse. One of them's a mom of twins, but
Wow.
they're all incredibly strong, incredibly resilient, and incredibly optimistic women. And so anytime I talk with one of them, I'm more motivated to do whatever it is I'm doing.
I love that. So important to have a good girl group in your life,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
So where can people find you online to follow along with everything that you're doing and just to learn more about you?
Yeah, so the best place to learn about my basic services, who I am, is going to be my website, which is laurabosco.com. And you'll find more regular updates on my Twitter and Instagram, which are linked to from my website. But my Twitter handle is Laura E. Bosco. And I'm pretty sure that's my Instagram handle too.
Cool. Thank you. So that's really all the questions I have for you today. Thanks for joining us. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for giving me the chance to sit down, meet you, and chat
Yeah,
about what I do.
absolutely. Did you have anything else that you wanted to share that I didn't touch on in my questions?
Mm.
Any final thoughts? It's okay if you don't.
I don't know exactly how to phrase it, but never underestimate the power of clear communication. Whether
Yeah.
you're in leadership, whether you're a business, whether you're just trying to have a better relationship with your family, never underestimate the power of clear communication in whatever
Yeah,
you're doing.
totally. Well, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure talking with you. And thanks everyone for tuning in today. If you liked this chat, please like and share this video and connect with us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. We are on all the platforms. So we'd love if we got a follow from you just to continue the conversation and so that you can get further updates and reminders of our next DWG TV episodes, which, speaking of, our next episode will be live on February 5th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I will be interviewing the lovely designers here at DuBose Web, and we'll be doing a little design panel to talk about design trends in 2019. So be sure to tune in for that. But yeah, thank you so much, Laura, for being here. It was such a joy to talk to you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Likewise. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye, guys.